Reception! Welcome to today's topic lesson. Now, today we are understanding the world. In particular, we are looking at changes and the changes we can see in the world around us. Now, there are changes happening all the time, and as long as we are observing carefully, that means looking carefully or looking closely, we can see changes in lots of different places in the world around us. Now, yesterday you looked at how bread was made. And you found out that bread, you found out there are lots of different changes when you have to make bread. At the beginning, you have the wheat, which is then ground down to make flour. The flour is then added to water, salt and yeast to make a dough. And then the dough is cooked and that turns into bread. Now, at each of those stages, the food, the ingredients are very different in their appearance. That means how they look. Their texture, which means how they feel, and probably also their smell and taste as well. And reception, it got me thinking about food in general and about all the different types of changes we could observe when we are preparing or cooking food. Now, before we start, I've got a bit of a question for you. You're going to need to think back to last week. So last week we talked a bit about good hygiene, and we talked about how good hygiene means keeping our bodies clean and tidy, and we talked about why that was important. Now, there were 5 different things we said we could do. There are lots of other examples too, but we looked at 5 of them. Can you pause the video and see if you can remember what the 5 things were? Well done, reception. You remembered all of them. We said we needed to bath or shower often. We needed to make sure our clothes were clean and we needed to put clean clothes on. We needed to make sure we kept our nose clean as well. We talked about brushing our teeth and making sure there are no germs or food in our teeth. And last of all, the one that's most important for today's activity, we talked about washing our hands often. And that's more important now than ever. And throughout the day, you will wash your hands for lots of different reasons. We also need to wash our hands if we're going to be handling food, okay? And I've washed my hands, they're nice and clean, okay? So it's really important when you're handling food, you must wash your hands first, okay? So what are we going to be doing today? Well, it got me thinking, like I said, there are changes all around us, but I wonder if we would see changes when making food at home. I know we did in the video about bread, but will there be changes in our own kitchens, I wonder? Let's find out together. So, Mrs. Hutt is about to have her breakfast, and I'm quite hungry, so I've got lots of different things. Let me show you what I've got. Now, these are the foods at the start, before I've done anything to them. Are you ready to see what I've got? Okay, I've got some cornflakes. You can hear that, they're very dry. Let me touch them. Oh, they're quite crunchy, they're definitely very dry. Oh, when I snap them, they make a crack sound. Yep, that's my cornflakes. I've got some milk, which I will put with my cornflakes when I'm ready to eat. I've got some bread. Now my bread, I'm going to make some toast for this. At the moment, it's quite bendy, it's quite soft, it smells delicious, and it's quite a light colour at the moment. So that's my bread that I'm going to use to make some toast. And because I'm so hungry, I'm also going to have some scrambled eggs. Now, here's an egg inside its shell, and I've opened one up to show you. I'm sure you've seen one at home, but just in case, let's have a look. Oh, it's quite hard to show you. Can you see? Can you see it's very runny? We've got the yolk, the yellow bit, and we've got the white as well. So that's how the egg is at the moment. Very, very runny indeed. And oh, another reminder, when handling eggs, you must wash your hands too. So when I crack this open, I wash my hands after as well, because we should never have raw eggs on our hands. And the last of all, I think I'm quite thirsty. So I thought I'd treat myself to a freshly squeezed orange juice. And I've got some little oranges here, little satsumas. And here's the orange as it is now. Little segments, bit squishy, definitely smells sweet. Quite juicy as well. Okay. Now to make my breakfast, I'm going to have to do some different things. I'm going to have to mix some ingredients together. I'm going to have to use some heat to get things ready, to cook my egg and to make my bread turn into toast. I'm going to have to use some heat, and I'm going to have to squash and squeeze to get some juice out of this orange. And I think what I predict is that I will see some changes in the way the things look, the way the food smell, taste and feel. And that's what I'm going to do now with you. I'm going to be a bit of a scientist and I'm going to observe carefully. But I need to pause my video, go and do some cooking, and then come back and show you what's changed. Now, while I pause this video, I want you to pause too, and I want you to talk with your helper about what changes you think I will find. What's going to happen to these foods when I mix them up, when I cook them, when I squash them? What do you think will happen? Okay, so I'm going to pause the video, make those predictions, and then I will show you what happened. Okay. Hi, reception. Welcome back. Did you make some good predictions, do you think? Should we see if some of them were right? Okay, so, oh, it smells delicious, making me quite hungry. Goodness me. Let's first of all have a look at our orange juice. So, I opened up my orange and I squeezed it. I squeezed out all the juice. And the first thing I've noticed is now, instead of having a juicy orange on the inside, I've got lots of sort of skin parts, which are like little empty bags because all the juice has been squashed out. Now, in my juicer, what do we call this? In here, we have got some orangey bits, the pulp, the thicker parts. I've even found a pip, look. And in here underneath, there should be some juice. Now, I've got my glass ready. Let's see. You ready? Oh dear. I might need a few more oranges to make a big enough drink. Goodness me, that's disappointing. Let's have a look at what happened. The orange has been separated. So we've got the liquid part here, the juice, and the thicker, more solid parts have been left behind. So when I squash the orange, I push the juice out, and now my orange has changed. Now I wonder, reception, do you think I could put my orange back together again? If I got all the pulp, got all the juice, I've got the skin here, could I put the orange back together again? No, I couldn't, because the changes I've made are permanent. They are, and the science word is irreversible. Now that means you can't change it back. You can't undo what you've done. I wonder if any of these other changes are irreversible. Let's see. Now here's my egg. Now before the egg was runny, it was a liquid, it sloshed around, there was a yolk and the egg white. Let's see what I've got now. So I cooked my egg, and look what's happened. It's gone solid. It's very squishy. It's a bit warm. And it's sort of grouped up into little lumps of harder egg. So the texture's changed. It definitely looks different. Smells yummy. But I wonder if I could get that back to the egg from before. Could I get the yolk out and the egg whites? Could I uncook my egg? No, you can't reverse this. It's an irreversible change. And there are lots of irreversible changes around us happening all the time, particularly with food. Okay, my toast. So we had our floppy soft bread. Let's see. Oh, it's definitely not that floppy. It feels much drier, actually, and a little bit scratchy. Can you hear that? I've dried out my bread when I cooked it. I've made it a bit firmer. It's not, I can still bend it. It's just not as soft as when it was bread. It's definitely a bit crunchier. Can you hear that? And it feels a little bit rougher on my skin. Oh yeah, and I think I might have cooked it a bit much on that side. It smells a little bit burnt. Okay, so could I get back to my bread? Could I reverse that change? No. Once I've heated the bread and turned it into toast, I can't get the bread back. It will just stay as toast. The change is irreversible. Now, what about my cereal? What did you think was going to happen to it when I added the milk? Oh, let's see if you're right. Lots of you said it become a little bit soggier. Shall we see? Oh, yep, that's definitely much soggier. Before I could snap my cornflakes and it would make a nice crack sound because it's quite dry. Now it's definitely gone very soft with the milk and soggy, and nope, it doesn't crack anymore. It just bends and tears because it's much softer. The milk has mixed with the cornflakes and changed its texture. What do it smell like? Oh, it smells fairly similar. I wonder what the milk would taste like. Would the milk have changed as well? What do you think? Shall I find out? I'm going to have a little taste test. It still tastes like milk, but there's definitely something mixed in it. Perhaps it's little parts of the cornflake changing the flavour of the milk. So when I mix these two together, it changed the way it feels and the way it tastes. It does look fairly similar, to be fair. It's still the same, although maybe actually some of the cornflakes look like getting a little lighter in colour. Perhaps as they get soggy, they're not quite as orange anymore. I'd have to keep observing and see what happens if I left it a bit longer. Reception. Could I separate my milk and cornflakes? Could I get them back to having fresh milk and the dry, crisp cornflakes? Oh, a bit of a divide there. Some people say, yeah, you could pick out the cornflakes and then have the milk left over. That's true, but would they be exactly the same as they were before I mixed them? I don't think so. I think the milk will have some little bits mixed in it. I think some of the milk will be stuck inside the cornflakes, so we won't get all the milk out. And also, if we took the cornflakes and left them on the side to dry, they might go a little bit harder, but I think they would be a bit permanently changed as well. Perhaps the shape would be a bit different, perhaps the colour. We'd have to check that. But I think out of all of this one might be the one to look at in more detail next time. So reception, what would I like you to do today? Well, I want you to be a scientist today. I want you to do lots of careful observations at home. Now, when someone is preparing food at home, it might be making the lunch, sorting out the dinner, maybe even the breakfast like me. I want you to look closely. I want you to see if you can see any changes taking place. How are the food items changed as they are cooked or mixed or squashed or chopped? Do they look different? And if you're allowed to, and you wash your hands, do they feel different? Do they smell different? See what you can find. And with your helper, write down some of your observations. I'd love to see what you found out. Make sure you send it over to me when you've done it on the special day. Okay, reception. We'll go and observe and see what happens. Can't wait to see what you see. Take care, reception. Bye.